A couple of years ago, there was an artist named Aliyah. She wrote a song called 4-Page Letter, a love letter to her lover. Obviously, it's a song. And she just got beaten up in terms of the number of pages of letters that were written by our president, Cyril Ramaphosa. He wrote 7-page letter to the ANC Comrades. Obviously, we had to view this letter which he was writing to the ANC Comrades. So it's one of those little brilliant moves where the politicians are talking tough in terms of dealing with corruption, criminalities, fraud, ill discipline in the organization, how the organization is the best in the world by standard, the oldest political formation in this continent of Africa, of where now what this organization has done has left people who are being loyal to it and loving it wholeheartedly are broken-hearted because they can't recognize what it is when they look at this political party. So obviously, this letter could just be written on a letterhead, get sent to all the branches of the African National Congress, and let the members read it. And I saw one of the outer CEO, Wayne Duvenage, so upbeat, so excited about this letter, and he was talking to Kathy Mutlahlana at news on Channel 405, how now President Ramaphosa is cracking the whip and how he's challenging and daring the ANC, NEC, and kind of bypassing them and speaking to the public and saying, this is what I'm going to be doing now, And it was hilarious, because if you are a president and you are a leader, you don't have to talk the talk. You don't have to walk the walk and have all this figure of speech and stuff. You just get in there and saying, this is what I want to do when you're speaking with your cabinet, and these are the policies that we have to enforce. So unfortunately, that looked like a love letter, because the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa is not the ANC. The ANC is an organization that has policies that are to be implemented. So if the masses out there don't like some of the policies of the African National Congress and hear our president of the nation speaking about how he's going to do ABC, which they like this ABC, but this ABC is nowhere in the ANC policy, that's not going to happen. It's a fantasy. So let me break down this letter. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit of some excerpts on this letter, not the whole 7-page letter. Trust me, I won't bore you with the details. I have to go through all this letter. I have to go through all the torture of reading this love letter so that you can just get the highlights. But if there's something that you're not going to be believing that's been said on this letter, I still suggest that you as a South African, you as an individual have to go through this letter yourself so that you can have an informed decision. Okay? It's written on the 23rd of August 2020. And it says, Dear Comrade. I guess Comrades, it's written Comrade. The beginning of it states, let this be a turning point in our fight against corruption. I write this letter to you, my fellow ANC member, as our movement and our country face one of the greatest challenges since the advent of democracy. And then that's the intro. I don't know when did the president started to realize that we have challenges, but we've been having challenges for as long as he could be the vice president or the deputy president of the African National Congress. He had overseen some of the activities that has been happening while he was the deputy president. But hey, he's been voted for by people who believe that he will be making changes which are different to the former president, although he was participating in the same cabinet as a deputy president with President Jacob Zuma. So the excerpt continues. Justified. In recent weeks, we have heard stories of tender for personal productive equipment that have been given to individuals associated with ANC leaders and of public servants flouting the law in issuing tenders. You heard that. We have heard. Remember, the spokesperson of the president of South Africa, whom his name is Cyril Ramaphosa, okay? Her husband had these tenders of PPEs, okay, of 125 million paid, but he says we have heard. It's like, I don't know whether you have heard that through the media, or maybe, I don't know, from hearsays in passages. It continues. What has caused the greatest outrage is that there are private sector companies and individuals, including civil servants, who have exploited a grave medical, social and economic crisis to wrongfully enrich themselves. So now it's pivoting in terms of shifting responsibilities of his comrades in the ANC government of stealing this PPE money. He's pivoting to the private companies. He says the private sectors. Unless if he says the private sectors, meaning the private companies of which are owned by friends and some members of parliament, some provincial leaders and so forth. And then if he's talking about the private sector, then he's speaking about his comrades. Since the 54th National Conference, we have taken decisive measures in government to disrupt and dismantle the state capture networks and decisively deal with the scourge of corruption. We have used competition policy to tackle excessive pricing and abuse of market dominance in the private sector. Let me stop it there. Excessive pricing and an abuse of market dominance in the private sector. Again, all these tenders which the ANC's friends and lovers and spouses are getting, they are inflating percentages of clubs, masks, public, rather the PPEs, personal protectors gears. They're inflating the prices by like 300 to 400% prices. But here he's talking about the little nuggets of private companies that we see, who then goes to the competition commission to make the competition commission get some extra money, because they would then fine them a couple of millions, which will still go to the government, and who knows where that money is going to go to. Probably going to go back again to the real private businesses, competitors, which is the private sectors of the ANC people. Okay. In the private sector, particularly during the state of disaster, where several firms have been found guilty of illegally inflating prices of things like face masks and sanitizers, it is a matter of great concern to us that corruption has so deeply infected the state. He continues, he says states, and then the business community, so it's state, business community, and society, to a point of threatening to undo gains we have made in the last 26 years. So, again, he's pivoting away from his family, the ANC. Okay, he's knitting together the infection that it's happening in the state, in the business community, and in the society. You see, the society at times also is a product with in terms of corruptions and the rotten behavior that the society is exhibiting. Most of it sometimes is of people who are looking and say, oh, look at the top there, from your Ngandla era, from the Sarafina money, looted and so forth up to today. It builds the society to say, in South Africa, you have to be corrupt and fraudulent in order to move up the steps or the ladders of success. Okay. While the current allegation about corruption in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic have brought the issue sharply to the fore, the reality is that corruption in this country has far deeper roots. So now what he's trying to say is that, which is not saying, the Chinese communist virus, aka COVID-19, has exposed the ANC's fraud, corrupt behavior, because tenders have to be issued now, where we can see who's getting tenders now, because of those equipments are to be used now to combat this virus now. So as a result, it's not the fraud that is going to be taking place in a period of like 1 year when the government budget is out and people committing fraud and corruption in all these different places where you can't see them or having a sense that they're doing it now. So this has accelerated so fast. It's like a 10-year corruption which is happening within these few months, where products need to be taken to people and to take care of those people because of the coronavirus. Okay, but listen to the next lines now, because it's going to pivot into blaming Mr. Apartheid. Apartheid was both morally and materially corrupt, even as its laws enabled the theft of resources that rightly belong to the people of South Africa. There were many in the administration, in state companies, in Bantu stands, and in business who flouted even those corrupt laws to enrich themselves. So now he's saying, yeah, even in apartheid they did it. Okay, apartheid, they stole money, they committed corruption, they've committed fraud. It's kind of like, hey, my comrades, we are the same as the former administration of apartheid. But he's talking to the ANC comrades to do better, to fight corruption. But he's reminding them that, you know what, that's fine. The apartheid government also committed corruption, fraud, and so forth. So what? So what? Is this the standard that you want to compare yourself with? I mean, it's like saying, I don't know what's wrong with South Africa. There are hurricanes and cyclones in America, in Asia, and so forth, and we don't have a cyclone. We never had a hurricane. I mean, kind of comparison and standards do you want to compare yourself with? I mean, this is like negativity. So anyway, today the ANC and its leaders stand accused of corruption. The ANC may not stand alone in the dock, but it does stand as accused number one. This is the stark reality that we must now confront. This has been those media journalists who are phoning, who are going goo gaga gaga in love with the president. That you see that he's saying that we are accused number one, but again he's still not talking about himself alone. So accused number one is the ANC, and then I guess accused number two is the giant corporate private companies and the apartheid infrastructures and so forth. So it's excuses again. But the media journalists love that part, eh? So here he now continues talking about the ANC National Executive Committee that happened a few days ago. At its last meeting at the beginning of this month, the ANC National Executive Committee recognized the justifiable public outrage caused by recent reports of corruption. It said these developments cost us, listen to this, to quote Msholozi, listen to this, in quotes, cost us collectively to dip our heads in shame and to humble ourselves before the people. We see that collective responsibility. So the National Executive Committee, the President, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, he said they have collectively dipped their head in shame. So it's a collective responsibility of being shame. You cannot isolate individuals who have committed corruption, fraud, and so forth, and make sure that the law enforcement agency is dealing with them for them to be in prison. No, it's just collective responsibility, collective shame. And as you can read this whole article, it's not I am going to do this as the leader of the ANC, it's we. Perhaps the best known form of corruption is the award of tenders and other contracts to certain companies based on conflictual relations such as friendship or family connections. For these people, success depends on who you know in the public service. Sometimes those awarding the tenders receive kickbacks from successful companies. He knows who those people are. Billions of rands that should have gone to improve public transport, to better infrastructure for the, here it comes again, pandering obviously to the majority of the voters of the ANC, which is largely black folks and poor people. Okay, so you would say these billions would have then were supposed to go and improve public transport, to better infrastructure for the poor, to reliable and affordable electricity. That's ESCOM, which has just been destroyed under the ANC leadership. Okay, so he's now saying that if this corruption wasn't happening and wasn't caused by the ANC, this money would have helped the people in terms of ESCOM, but you know, there were no maintenance. We're still looking for the power stations to be built, which constantly have problems and got prices being inflated. And one of the people who were involved during this Hitachi and Midupi scandals is the people's favorite now, the Minister of Health. They love him. They forgot about what he used to do. And then you have Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and the Sarafina scandal back in the day. Everybody forgot. We love her because she's saying people shouldn't zol. So hey, that's good for the goody two shoes in the society who don't read the constitution and see what happens. And also he continues here to reliable and affordable electricity, to emerging black farmers, and to the broader development of our country have been stolen to line the pockets of a criminal few. Boy, the criminal few, he says, but whoa, the number just keeps coming. It's not the criminal few, okay? We cannot hope to win back people's trust if we continue to allow cadres who are charged with criminal conduct for corruption to occupy positions of responsibility within the government and our movement. Those charged are required to insulate the ANC from reputational damage arising from their personal challenges by stepping aside while their cases are being heard. The same story that has been said, they will say that people should step aside so that the investigation should be made, and then the other factions will say, nah, the law should apply. You're not guilty until proven, and you see them being at work. So this is the same gobbledygook nonsense that always spoken by the ANC. Okay, so to address corruption in the ANC, we must. So these are the steps. Talking about the steps. Some of them were from the conferences, the national conference of the ANC in 2017. That's 3 years ago of things that, you know, nothing has been done. I'm going to quickly go through them. Implement without delay the resolution of our 54th National Conference on dealing with corruption, including that every cadre accused of or reported to be involved in corruption practices must account to the Integrity Commission immediately or face disciplinary processes. You know the stories about Integrity Committee, which has ICE. It has their favorites. Another point, people who fail to give an acceptable explanation or to voluntarily step down while they face disciplinary investigative or prosecutorial procedures should be summarily suspended. You also know about these things. They are favorites, those who are forced to step aside, and those who come through, and those who then come back when they have enough constituency in the voting block to come back. The story, it's a lot. The ANC should publicly disassociate itself from anyone, whether business donor, supporter, or member, accused of corruption or reported to be involved in corruption. You know the drill, promoted. Require ANC leaders to make regular declaration of financial interest. We're still waiting for that for a whole couple of years. Conduct lifestyle audits of all ANC leaders and public representatives. Same story. Develop a clear policy on ANC leaders and their family members doing business with the state. This is the big enchilada, the big one, the big fish. I'm gonna read it again. Develop a clear policy on ANC leaders and their family members doing business with the state. We must acknowledge that once one accepts a leadership position, a higher standard of behavior applies. So they're not talking about a person who works in the Department of Health, having a spouse or a relative, or even the very same individual doing businesses with the government's Department of Health. So it's Clownville. Instead of saying, we really have to be public servants now. If you come to government, you must know that you're not going to be making money here. If you're a minister of health or whatever, you're not going to do business with the state. Sorry. You can only do business with the private sector. But then again, there will then be those talks of saying nobody should be stopped from doing business as long as they're doing the business legitimately. So it will never stop. We must acknowledge that. Anyways, let me skip this. Strengthen the Integrity Commission and provide it with clear administrative and legal support. The ANC must develop uniform terms of reference and guidelines for provincial and regional integrity structures to address corruption in the state and society. And I actually don't want to continue reading this. It's the same old story. So, folks, it's not going to happen. This is just a nice little public relation move with the president, because, you know, our president is a good talker. Our government, they're good policymakers, but they would never put those policies into action. Okay, I'm done reading these pointers. Same old stories, waste of your extra data if I continue reading these bulletin points. So my name is Mamuji. Thank you for watching the Mamuji show, and I'm out.